Hi. In today's more casual Sunday sit-down game design chat, I'm going to chat about buzzer beaters. This is, so I don't know if you follow NBA basketball. They're in the playoffs right now. And there was a memorable moment a couple games ago where LeBron James hit a buzzer beater three-pointer to win the game. And it reminded me of the power, the memorable power of moments like that in sports, where it really comes down to a last second shot, which is pretty rare. Basketball does this really well. In basketball, I mean, most games, there's not a buzzer beater. A team beats the other team by a few points or a lot of points if it's a blowout. But every now and then in NBA and NCAA March Madness, there's a buzzer beater, and it ends up being a really memorable moment for that tournament. And oftentimes, those are like the highlights that are shown for years to come. That's what people remember. They remember when it comes down to the last minute. And so it got me thinking about how this can apply to tabletop games, in terms of creating memorable moments by barely winning or losing at the end due to a buzzer beater type situation. And I was thinking about this in two regards. One is that you have to have games where they put you in that position in the first place to even have a close call at the end based on a last second decision. So you have to get close to that to make it happen. And it can happen in other sports too. And sports do it really well. Because usually in sports you're getting points back and forth during the game, unlike in tabletop games, many victory point tabletop games where you're accounting for points at the end of the game instead of getting them during the game. But there are also quite a few games where you're getting points throughout the game, and then maybe you'll do something at the end to push forward just enough to make that happen. One example that came to mind was for Magic the Gathering. There's a somewhat, I think, famous play from a tournament years ago. I don't know how I know this, but I guess I used to read a little bit more about Magic tournaments when they were happening. But it was like the World Championship, and there was a final play where the guy who won was either going to win or lose based on the card he drew. I remember it being a lightning something. I can't remember what. It was like a deal 3 damage, gain 3 life type of card. But it was a 3 damage that he needed to win. The opponent knew he had this card in the deck, and he took the card and like slammed it down on the table. It created that last minute moment, like boom. Magic actually, I think, does this pretty well. Magic puts you in the position to have those buzzer beater moments where something can happen at the end. I was thinking about competitive games that do it, other competitive games that do it, and I was struggling a little bit to think of other competitive games that have this element. Because a lot of them, at least victory point games, come down to the last minute. Race games, like if you're racing on like Camel Up or Downforce, they even have points that you count at the end, and those are the good racing games. I'm not sure if there are other racing games where it really does come down to the last minute. One last move is whether you win or lose. But I could think of cooperative games that do this. I think cooperative games actually do this quite well. And so I'm looking over here at my other monitor at cooperative games that can come down to the last minute. On my list, I have Time Stories at the top of my top 10 list. Time Stories kind of has it, but I don't think it's really built for last minute like buzzer beater moments. Flip Ships, though, my number 2 cooperative game, definitely does. Flip Ships is all about those heroic, memorable moments where and it even has the dexterity element that can be compared to professional sports. Where Flip Ships, you're flipping these tiles to land on cards that are on the board. And really in Flip Ships, I have played games where it definitely comes down to the last shot. And I don't think we've hit the shot when it's come down to that moment. But the game builds to this, often can build to this crescendo where you need this one thing to happen to win. And you either do or don't do it. And Flip Ships does that really well. Let's see. Mysterium's on the list. Mysterium kind of, I'm looking at my top 10 cooperative games list, so this isn't necessarily a buzzer beater list. Mysterium kind of has those moments. It does give you opportunities to move towards the victory point condition, and then you either hit it or not. I would say Mysterium actually can build towards that. If it does go to the last play, it can have those moments where you where you hit that shot. You get the right guess at the end. Burgle Brothers, one of my favorite cooperative games. I'm trying to think if that has it. That has buzzer beaters. I wouldn't say it really does. It definitely has a sense of progression, but maybe not a buzzer beater moment. Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, I would say yes. It does have those buzzer beater moments at the end. The games that I've played have come down, have been pretty close at the end. We've had some very close moments at the end. I don't think I've ever won that game, but it's had some close moments at the end. And Pandemic's on the list, and Pandemic absolutely does a great job of putting those epidemic cards throughout the deck. You don't know exactly where they're going to hit, but they're spread throughout the deck. You have the deck as a timer, so you know. Like, this actually is a good comparison to basketball, because in Pandemic, if you're going to lose from the deck running out, which I would say doesn't happen all that often, but it definitely can happen compared to some of the other tracks, some of the other lose conditions. But if you're going to lose that way, you can, in fact, all of those lose conditions, you can see them coming. Like in a game of basketball, you know that time is running out, and that there's a moment where the buzzer beater has to happen, where you have to hit that shot or have to not hit that shot. And in Pandemic, that's definitely the case, where you can be getting really, really close to the end, and maybe you just get one more shot, one more chance to cure the disease at the end. Yeah, I'm trying to think if anything else comes to mind like this, but just in general, I'd certainly love to hear your thoughts about these buzzer beater moments in games, when a game can build to a key moment at the end that decides victory or not. And like I said, obviously this happens a lot in cooperative games. I'm trying to think if this happens in competitive games that I'm not thinking of, especially given that sports are often team games. So I wonder if this happens in more team games, like Captain Sonar. Are there those buzzer beater moments? Maybe because it's in real time. I'm not sure if it compares to basketball in that same way. But yeah, this is not a very productive discussion. Obviously, it's just me like thinking through this. But that's what the Sunday Sit-Downs are for. It's more casual. So if you have any thoughts about this topic, about buzzer beaters in tabletop games, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks.